hipsters, flipsters, and finger-popping daddies. Knock me your lobes. I came to lay Caesar out, not to hip you to him.
Podcast Junkies, episode 60. This is the podcaster's voice, aka the show, where we speak to interesting, fascinating, funny, smart, intelligent, witty, all sorts of podcasters that fit those adjectives and people that we like to talk to and have a good time with on the show. And I hope you get that same feeling when you hear the episodes. This week we talked to Mocean Melvin. Mocean is spelled M-O-C-E-A-N, and there is definitely an interesting story behind that name. That's not the only interesting thing about Mo as well, and I'm happy we got to hang out a bit at LA Podfest recently, and through a couple of fits and starts, we're finally able to put this episode together. His show is called The Mo Show. It's a sketch comedy show, definitely not safe for work, NSFW, for you kids out there, and it's an adult comedy show, so be forewarned, there's some salty language, not only in this podcast, in this episode, but also in his show as well. But it was a very entertaining conversation, and I think we went pretty deep as to the thought process behind why he put the show together, and I really left a bit more educated about the history of comedy in radio and with what's happening in the podcast scene around comedy and original shows. So I was really entertained, and I think we had a fascinating conversation. Another bit of news is that we are now part of the Podcastica Network, which is amazing news. And that's the network that's started up by Jason Kabasi. You may remember the name from episode 56. He of the Walking Dead podcast. So I'm really excited to be partnering with Jason on building that network out, and we've got some good news coming up around that, and I'll talk a little bit more about that at the end of the episode. Before I forget, in case you missed last week's episode, I got to speak to super fun Amy Robles of the Think Enriched podcast. We laughed a lot. She's really hilarious, and it was just so entertaining to get to speak to her. She's got a ton of energy. She's really doing something really positive and powerful with her podcast, and educating people about the importance of taking control of your finances, but doing it in a way that's so reassuring and comforting, and really is giving a helping hand to folks that need it. And just doing it in a fun way too, not forgetting that it's always important to have a good time while you're doing these things. And I think that's one of the reasons why we hit it off. So check it out, episode 59 with Amy Robles. But for now, check out the interview with Mr. Mocean Melvin. Yo, what's up? It's incredible that it's taken this long to put this interview together.
I know, but we're going to defy the gods.
We have to. We have to make this work somehow. And I'm just happy that it's on. It's on.
Thank God.
So I guess the question is, why are we even talking?
Well, I mean, I want to say, shameless self-promotion, but it's actually, I just met this cool guy, Harry, at the Podfest. My friend Jesse said he was cool. I think it'd be great if we just have some conversation. And I was hoping to get some hair notes, basically. Because your hair is just amazing, dude. Perfectly sculpted.
Thank you.
It's the first thing I noticed.
I don't think people understand the hard work that's involved.
I hear that.
So I was curious just how much recommendations mean to you.
In a podcast?
No.
In general?
Yeah, in general, from friends.
Oh yeah. Honestly, everything. I mean, if I go on Rotten Tomatoes, for instance, and I see a movie that's got 35%, and Jesse Lawler comes to me and he goes, "Hey man, have you seen X movie?" I'd be like, yeah, dude, it's got 35%. He's like, yeah, fuck that. It's awesome. Go see it. I'd be like, all right, let's do it. Restaurants, hairstylists, mani-pedis. I only listen to my friends.
And don't forget a good hot wings recommendation as well. That's very important.
Really? It's like, bro, have you tried Buffalo hot wings and Nan's mani-pedi down the street, bro? Dude, your toenails.
I can't think of any better combination.
And hot wings and a beer and watch the game?
Yeah, why not?
Wow. It's the ultimate metrosexual experience.
And I think inquiring minds really want to know if something like that exists. If not, we're going to have to invent it.
I want to know. I want to know about it.
Could there really be any better combination?
Yeah, because if I was eating wings and watching football and drinking beer, I would not feel weird about getting a mani-pedi at the same time. The two would just cancel each other out.
So I'm curious, how long have you known Jesse?
Jesse Lawler and I have been friends since 1994. We met in college, and it's a funny story, actually. I had a creative writing class with his girlfriend at the time, and she was hotter than balls, dude. Just this tall, blonde, gorgeous. She actually turned out to be a model later in real life, and so she was like, "Hey, are you an actor?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm like, whatever you want me to be." and she's like, "My boyfriend is doing this movie," and I was instantly like disappointed, but also elated at the same time because I was like, "Oh, okay, well maybe he's looking for somebody." And she's like, "You would be perfect for the lead." So I was like,
"Nice,
hook me up," So we met, and I was actually the lead character in his first feature film as a student at the University of Oregon up in Oregon, and he and I, we did this movie. Like, it took us a few months to do it, and he was just shooting it on this shitty little camcorder. But we traveled all over Oregon.
What was it called?
Fake stabbed people. Oh, it was called The Monopoly, and it was about a kid, this college nerd, who finds the plans for a potato gun.
Okay.
And he gets tracked down by the Irish mafia and Idaho militants. The two places where they have,
who wrote it?
Jesse wrote it. This is why this man is my friend. And I was cast. The guy that was cast as my best friend was Ryan Honey, who is a producer on the show. So on the MoShow. And so me and Ryan and Jesse have been longtime friends.
That sounds like an awesome friendship. And so you've always been on the West Coast?
Yeah, I grew up in Santa Barbara, and then my folks moved up there when I was still in high school. So I spent my last 2 years of high school in Oregon in a small town called Wolf Creek, where the favorite pastime of teenagers was drinking beer and shooting stuff in the woods. So it was a little bit of a change from skating and surfing every day and then moving to that. But then finally I went to college, and it was my salvation. So spent 4 years up there and came down here.
So have you fired a lot of guns?
I have fired many rifles. Yeah, my dad was a big it was a weird thing because he was a full-on hippie. We up in the ranch in Oregon, we had tie-dyed teepees in the backyard. I mean, we had a huge backyard. It was like 60 acres or something like that. And so we had tie-dyed teepees in the backyard. We had raised beds where we grew organic food that we cooked and ate ourselves. And then we had an armory of shotguns and rifles and pistols and revolvers and all kinds of shit. And we would go and blow up logs in the backyard. And if an animal had to get put down,
You had to do what you got to do. I'm just wondering how having those guns around you influenced you growing up, or if it affected your outlook, especially with all the crazy shit that's going on now around gun control.
Absolutely, man. I mean, I definitely consider myself to be a hippie at heart. You know what I mean? Like I'm all about peace, love, hanging out, partying, growing out your hair. But I'm also not. I'm certainly. I mean, just take one look at me. I'm nothing like a hippie. You know what I mean? And I inherited all those guns from my dad, which I still have. So, I mean, when it comes to gun control, I'm completely conflicted on that issue, right? Because I personally, as somebody who just has them for sport, like I don't hunt, I don't do I just take them to the range and shoot, you know what I mean? From like try to get a bullseye. That's pretty much the extent of it, and I mean, I don't even have it like all my guns are locked away. Like if somebody broke into my house, I'd be totally fucked. But at the same time, I'm like, just look at all the crazy shit that's happening in this country. You know what I mean? And you look at places like Australia that have no guns at all, and you look at the difference between all the gun deaths that are in this country and the gun deaths that are in that country, and I'm kind of like, should we even have these things? You know what I mean? But at the same time, I'm like, I'm not gonna fucking kill anybody. So I don't know. That's sort of one of the conflicted things that's come out of that upbringing for sure.
But it seems like if anyone tried to come to your house and take your guns, you'd probably have a problem with that.
I would, man. I would, because it's like, yo, I haven't done anything. But at the same time, it's like, hey, if you give up your guns and no one else in this country is going to get killed, I'd be like, fine, take them.
But it's such a hot button topic, and it seems like there's no right or wrong answer.
I know. That's also the other thing about the whole like gun control thing, like people get so defensive about that, and guns don't kill people, people do. And it's like, well, I don't know. There's a lot to be said on both sides of the argument, but I think the whole gun control issue is kind of a joke. You know what I mean? Like, you should either take away everybody's guns or just put down some serious restrictions. But, I'm not a political dude. I'm not going to go toe to toe on anybody with that one. But at this point, my guns are locked away. I only take them out. I use them safely. And in the meantime, I think it's something that we got to work out.
Yeah, and when I make it over to your house, we can go shooting somewhere.
Sure. Yeah. Exactly. I can even give you a safety debriefing.
Very cool.
Do it.
Looking forward to that.
But I'm waiting for the zombie apocalypse. When that happens, I'm fucking ready.
Yeah, because when that happens, all bets are off, right?
Exactly.
This show's not even political. I don't know how we got here. It's so crazy.
Not at all. I mean, how did we get on this fucking subject? Jesus.
I don't even know, man.
I mean, I was thinking we were going to be talking about all the fart jokes and tits and stuff in our show, but no, let's talk about some serious political issues.
I think we're going to have to add a page to your site that covers gun control.
I'm going to add an extra page. themoshow.com/gun control, not gun control.
Yeah, I don't think you'll get those two worlds. Well, who knows? I was wondering if you'd actually get those two worlds colliding, but I'm sure stranger things have happened. So, talking a little bit about your show, I'm really fascinated by the way you've put the show together. And when Jesse told me about it, I was really intrigued, and I blasted through all the episodes. Really, I think it was in the span of one day, and I was like, man, this guy's doing something really crazy. And I knew I wanted to chat with you about it. But what was amazing was all the intricate ways you've put together the production.
Yeah.
It's obvious you guys know what you're doing. It's obvious you've got a ton of talent there.
Yeah.
And I think what you're doing is really awesome. I mean, you're scripting the show, and you're putting a lot of time into not only the quality but the production, and that's why you've only come out with a few episodes per week or per month. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm wondering if you could just talk about the genesis of that show and everything that you've thought about as you put it together.
I mean, you kind of nailed all of the elements that were sort of pre-existing before we started that kind of led to this. Really, I mean, the sort of like the conception of this happened back in like 2009, 2010, something like that. I was working for I was the voice of a car company, and it was one of those dream jobs in VO, where you're working almost every single day, and they were cranking out lots of different radio and TV spots. And it was really like the big break in my career. And, I was working with this guy who, with this ad agency in Florida, and I was connecting with them through ISDN, and for your listeners who don't know, ISDN is basically a way to connect remotely to another studio. It's basically like a really beefed up phone line. And so I had these daily ISDN sessions with this engineer, who is our engineer now, a guy named Dominic. And this was, on his end, he had an entire agency looking over his shoulder, making sure that everything was great. Editors, writers, producers, all that stuff. And I had like pretty much just me and my agents looking over my shoulder, making sure that I kept the job, So both of us were kind of under a lot of pressure to like do a good job, be professional, and like crank out things in a timely manner and with really good quality. And so we'd been doing this gig for a few months, and it was all pretty, your standard stuff like, the tent event this Sunday with, all of that shit you hear in car commercials, like $500,000 cash back or 0% APR, that kind of stuff. $500,000, that's a lot. But anyway, it was usually more like 5,500.
$500,000.
I know, right? Yeah, seriously. And the car? Awesome. So basically we're in this professional situation, and we're sitting there, and like once we got down to like the nitty gritty day in, day out, we both knew our jobs. It was just me and him. And so one day he just cracked some really inappropriate joke. And there was this moment of silence where I could tell he was waiting to hear what my reaction was going to be. And I was like, did he just fucking say that? And then both of us just started laughing our asses off. And we both sort of realized like, oh shit, like we have the same sense of humor. We have the same. So we just sort of like developed this rapport where we were just cracking each other up with the raunchiest, most unprofessional, un-PC kind of humor that you could think of. But he's sitting in a multi-million-dollar studio all day long. He's got sound effects. He's got music beds. He's got incredible skills because this is all he's been doing for the past 10 years. And so I basically, after a couple of weeks of like, once we realized we were both cool, I just wrote out this commercial. And it was called Compton Dream Vacations.
Nice.
And it was basically about like a company that takes you and your family down to Compton and sets you up in a, like a nice B&B, gives you an AK-47 and a 6.4 and sends you out, to do as you will as a gangster. And I sent it to him just as a joke. Like I wrote it out and I voiced it and I sent it to him just as a lark, like, wouldn't this be funny? He comes back at me and it's got full production, sound effects. He's added some VO. He's created all this incredible shit. And it was it was amazing. And it was like, it was like 60 seconds of pure, highly produced, highly offensive, and highly hilarious voiceover. So we're like, dude, we got to do so. So we did a few more spots and we fucked around. And we were like, dude, we got to do this. We got to do that. We got to and, nothing came of it, of course. It took us, like for 6-7 years, nothing happened.
Well, it's a long time.
Yeah. So, like 2009. So it was like like 5 years, nothing happened. And then, in the meantime, I had talked about this with all of my other actor and writer friends and started taking classes at the Groundlings, which is an improv school, and UCB, also here in LA. And a lot of my friends were also, good friends from college, people that I met while I was here. We were all sort of like, we talked about it, and I would play them some stuff that me and Dominic did, and they thought it was really funny. And then all of a sudden, like just within our group of friends, like it just started to heat up, and everybody was like, "Oh, let's do this," and everyone started to have ideas. And so finally, it was like, "Yo, let's just have a meeting and get some people together and see what people think." And everybody was just completely on board with it. And the thing that made it easy, which at the time we thought it was going to be easy, we're like, we've got a professional engineer with with a fully stoked out studio. He can edit everything. He's been doing this for like 15 years now. The guy can make everything sound really amazing. And we've got a bunch of comedy writers, people who have been all the way through all of these, sketch comedy and improv programs. I know a bunch of voiceover people who are all pros. Let's see if we can put all this together into something. And of course, everyone was like, well, the obvious thing is a podcast. If the only format that we've got is audio, even though this isn't like what would be considered a typical podcast, we could put it out as one. And so we got together and we just decided to do it. And that was about a year and a half ago now. And so we just got together and we started writing, and we just wrote a bunch of sketches. And then that's when we had this big bank of sketches, and we decided what the show was going to be about. And then we were off to the races from there, man.
Sounds like you had a lot of ideas for what would work. And to your point, you underestimated how much effort it would actually be involved to do it all.
Oh my God. Absolutely. I mean, we thought man, we've got this entire structure in place. All we got to do is plug in some ideas, we'll just plug in some ideas in this end, and some awesome shit's going to come out the other end, And no, I completely underestimated how much work it was going to be, because, we set a really high bar for ourselves in terms of production value, and we wanted it to sound great. And if something sounded like, it was something just some guy put together in his studio by himself on his Mac with a USB mic and some sound effects, we're like, no. This has got to sound professional. It's got to be at the level that we all already work at in our professional careers. So, then, we, the learning process, the writing process was really fun. We wrote all these episodes, and we were recording them as we were writing them. And, once we got the mic set up and the room set up, that's when I really realized, oh shit, this is going to be a lot of work, because, I had to set up all the, what we were talking about earlier. I had to set up all of the audio interfaces, make sure I had enough. I had a computer that was powerful enough. I had to set up all the mics, wire the mics, stands for them, sandbags to make sure they don't fall over, copy stands, carpeting on the copy stands. So there's just the technical setup was insane. But that part was cool, because I actually like that stuff. I don't mind doing some, grip work and some audio engineering kind of work. And so that part was actually fun. But really, when the night, I don't want to, nightmare is kind of a strong word, but the real challenge came with the post-production. It was when the voiceover was all recorded, the episodes had been written, the voiceover was all recorded, and now it was time, and it was my job to cut down all of that voiceover into to
cohesive story.
A cohesive story, exactly. And that's what we call the dry cut, when it's just the voiceover and it's all multi-tracked, so that the engineers can manipulate it the way that they want. So that's one part of the process. And then next, I have to prepare the script. And so the record script, what the actors are reading in the room, looks a lot different from the actual post-production script, where I have to write in all of the sound effects. And then I have to pick the music, and we licensed a bunch of music. So I have to go on and listen to a bunch of songs, and that takes a good 2-3 hours per episode just to pick all that music, and then write in the music, but also not okay, so start the song at 5 seconds, write it this line, play it until 32, then splice it together at 48 and pop that, so it's just
bananas.
Really detailed, major, and it's this is one of those moments where it's I wish I did crystal meth, because this would probably be really fun if I did, and so then once that's done, got to send it, we call it the package, where we send off the VO, the script, and all the music cues, and then add in, we have a composer who does original songs. So sometimes I have to get blow some singers or just bribe them to come in and sing, it's hey, I'll buy you a beer, and come in and like sing some stuff, and then have the composer like put it all together, and then send that along with the package as well. And then once the engineers got it, he's got his work to do, and then he sends it back. We give him notes. I have to talk to the head writer of the episode to see what they think about it. And then, a lot of times we'll butt heads on, like, this sounds good. No, I don't like, I'd rather it was like this. And it's like, well, I wrote the episode, but I'm like, yeah, well, I'm the fucking director and I have the last word, but I don't want to be an asshole, but that's just not going to play, and they're like, fuck you. That's not at all what I wrote. So it's actually not like that, but we do have to have discussions about what works and what doesn't. And then we'll send it off. But so that's where it was like, oh my God, what have I gotten myself into?
What you just outlined is so crazy, and it's probably making every single podcaster who's listening head spin.
Yeah.
And it's just the amount of detail. Nobody does that for their show.
Right.
And on top of everything else, it's all offensive stuff.
Definitely offensive. Somebody's offended out there, I'm sure.
I mean, there's no way you can do that without pushing someone's buttons out there.
Yes.
And the way that you work at this is at a pace that's so crazy and so professional.
Yeah, right.
And I just don't understand how you do it. I wonder how much you think about all these things that nobody else thinks about, and how or why you decided that this is something you would have to approach from that professional level. Because when podcasters think, or when they get started, typically a lot that we meet, they think about this at a bare minimum level.
Yeah.
And I need a $60 mic.
Mm-hmm.
I need a hosting account, and I need, an idea of what my show is going to be about so that I can get it up and I can record 10, 15, 20 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea that you would be able to do that for your show doesn't compute.
Right.
And it just means that because of what you were working, the space that you were working in, you were definitely not going to cut corners.
Yeah.
It just wasn't in you.
Sure.
And then on top of everything else, the subject matter that you picked for the show is, let's make it as raunchy as possible and offend as many as we can.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think a big part of like the raunchiness of it actually is a little bit of a reaction to how clean we all have to be in our normal professional careers.
Yeah, because you've had all this pent up frustration from your jobs.
Yeah. Well, that's true. I mean, you look at a guy like Dominic, right? So this dude works like 10 hours a day, sometimes 12 hours a day. He's got editors, he's got producers, he's got writers, he's got people on his back and looking over his shoulder all day long. And he handles his job with incredible grace. I mean, I know I've been there on the line with him when like 5 people have walked in and they've all requested something that they need right this second. And he's, he handles it with incredible grace and total professionalism. And he never drops the ball. He's always on top. But you can imagine the stress that creates for him. And so for us as VO people, we've always, we've got to hit our marks. We've got to be clean. We've got to sell shit that we don't like ourselves. And it's the world that we live in, and it's the world, honestly, that we love. Otherwise, we wouldn't be doing this, right? Like the world of like trying to be compelling with your words. And we're all wordsmiths, and we love the art of communication. But 99% of what we do is rated G. And so, a lot of times, if you'll be in a session, and not just with Dominic, but just in a regular session, and somebody will crack some horribly un-PC joke, but everybody laughs at it because we've been doing this incredibly PC work. And so, you sort of, and then you look at like a lot of the, like the people who do sketch comedy and all that stuff. And And it's looser here in LA, but there's still restrictions. And so we basically we have a platform where we can say whatever we want, and we can do whatever we want. And it's really freeing and wonderful. And we try to make it clear, in our intros and in the show, like, hey, this might not be for you, So if this isn't, then don't listen to it. But if you want, if you want to cut loose, if you want to make fun of all the commercials that you see every day, if you want to make fun of the promos, if you want to kind of get a little insight into the wacky life of a voiceover person, then check it out. But it's been a lot of fun for us, and we have gotten to blow off a lot of steam. And there's definitely a few of our episodes out there where I'm like, I hope my mom doesn't listen to that one.
It's crazy that your mom would actually be listening.
I know, right? Oh, that's nice, dear. Oh, what's become of you? Where did I go wrong?
I'm sure you do everything in your power to make your mom proud.
Exactly. Oh, it's funny. Actually, my mom's one of our biggest fans. She loves the show.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
I guess the apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
That's probably true. Sorry, Mom.
But it's so amazing that she's a fan because she's proud of what you're doing. So it's almost like no matter what you do, she'd be proud of you. So she's a supporter.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, the core group, the folks that got it started, I know it's the MoShow, but who was there at the beginning?
Yeah. Well, the sort of core crew is me, Ryan, who's our producer, who sometimes sort of guest writes, and he actually wrote an episode and does some a little bit of VO. But we've got 4 head writers. We actually just brought on another one for the second season. So, and then we have 2. And then we have 2 people who are sort of like our go-to VO people, a guy named Ryan Carlberg and Andy McAfee. And Ryan's more of an actor, but he's a great friend of ours. And Andy is a long time on camera and VO person, and you've heard her on all kinds of stuff. So that would bring, bring the crew to, shit, I wasn't counting the whole time. Yeah, about like 10, 11 people. But we, because I know a lot of pro VO people, we have guys that are, established in the world who are more than happy to come and do and mock themselves, basically, because they all have that same thing too, where they'd like to cut loose, but they got to be professional all the time. Like there's a guy named William Salyers, Bill Salyers, who's on, oh God, he's going to kill me if I get this wrong. The Regular Show. Anyway.
Yeah, I think that's close enough.
Okay, good.
It's not that he's listening.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Sorry, Bill, if I got that wrong. Anyway, he's amazing. He's such a talented dude. And he was more than willing to come in and just like go off the rails. And he's like, he did one of our more like offensive, risque scenes, It's in the Black is the New Black, which is our latest episode, and he had no problem going there, and we, it's pretty much like whatever we put in front of people, they'll say it, and I think it gives regular VO people a chance to like come in and do what they do so well, but without any restrictions. You know what I mean? They can say whatever they want, and everybody has fun. And so, I'm really looking forward to reaching out to more people for the, for the second season. And we're going to try to get some folks who are, like in the upper echelon of the VO and animation world, like I got some targets. John DiMaggio, if you're listening, want to get you on.
Yeah, we can tweet about it. Make sure he knows all about the MoShow.
All right, good.
Because at some point this will be really famous.
Yeah, absolutely. Sounds good. He's a cool guy from what I hear.
I'm wondering if this eventually would become something like, I think it was Dexter, where actors were trying to do the cameo of the dead body on the show. I think it would just be something cool, right? Because all these folks, like you said, are in their jobs where they have to play it straight-laced. And now the MoShow is the cool place to come and let your hair down. But I'm also wondering, like, what is it that separates the folks that are at this high level that you're talking about? You know, why are they so special from a voiceover perspective?
Well, I think there's, well, I can speak for myself and say that there's really two things. One of them is just their talent. You know, I mean, you look at John DiMaggio, that guy, he's just got such incredible range. He's Bender on Futurama and a bunch of other shit, which of course I'm blanking on right now, but he's just got such incredible range, and you can tell that he's having so much fun. And from hearing secondhand, because of course I'm like just twice removed from this guy. Like I know a million people who've worked with him personally, and they're all like, he's so gracious. He's so sweet. He's such a great guy. And he also just came out with an amazing VO documentary called I Know That Voice, which basically he just interviews everybody who's anybody in the world of animation and voiceover. And you can tell that he loves what he does, and he loves the people that he works with, and he is just incredibly generous with his talent, with his time, and he really celebrates the craft of voiceover. And so it's, I look at him and I'm like, man, if I could be like him. And he's also just got incredible range in terms of like the genres of voiceover. He can do trailer, he can do promo, he can do animation, he can do characters, he can do light characters, he can do serious characters. He's just, and so it's people like that who really blow me away. And I could name 20 dudes who are just like that, And so, those are the guys that I really look up to and hope to be like someday.
Did you see In a World?
Yeah, I did.
That was an interesting take on the state of women in voiceovers. I'm wondering what you think or how that relates to what the industry is like now.
I would say, from what I know of the industry, it's an accurate portrayal of what the industry was like about 10 years ago. Okay. Because so much of it happens in like an actual studio, where, she's, every time she goes to record something she has to go to a studio. And the vast majority of people who work on a regular basis doing trailer and promo, they have a home studio. And that's not a new thing, but it's much more the norm now. You look at the great Don LaFontaine, and when he was, you hear all these legendary stories about how he used to be, driven in a limo in a tuxedo to all of his sessions, and he had to drive around town. But eventually, he was one of the first guys to create his own studio. And so for a while, I think it was sort of a luxury to kind of have that. But then around 2007, that's when I got the Nissan gig with Dominic, and it was a requirement for me to have my own studio. And so that's when I had to borrow $6,000 from my girlfriend at the time, and I had to build my own studio in my closet. And so so for me, it got to the point where it was like, yeah, okay, if you want to continue working in this industry, you need to get your own studio. And so that movie, well, I got to say, it's a fucking great movie. I mean, it's a standalone good movie. Even if you're not into voiceover, it's just a great story, and it's well done. It's well written and everything like that. And so, and a lot of it, yeah, it was true, like those big gigs come out, and, you hear tell about it. And if you're up for it, it's a big deal, and so, while it's not, I think that sort of like, gossipy isn't the right word, but like that sort of buzz around jobs, I think is more prevalent in like the on-camera acting world. But, there's still like big deals like that come along in voiceover as well.
So what do you think the current state of affairs is for women now in voiceovers?
Man, I wish I had a better answer for you, but I think it's getting better. I mean, I'm sure that it's still like the vast majority. I mean, all you got to do is watch TV for a while, and you realize the vast majority of voiceover out there is for men. But I personally am of the opinion that there should be more female voiceover out there. I mean, that's just a personal preference. I mean, I just prefer listening to a woman's voice, I think, a little bit better. But I think it's getting better. Andy McAfee, who I mentioned earlier, who's part of the crew, she does a lot to kind of fight for the women's rights in the world of voiceover. And, there's a lot of changes I think that need to be made, but I think it goes beyond just the world of voiceover. I think it's a cultural thing, and I think people still feel like a man's voice has more authority or more gravitas, and so I think that's probably going to continue for the foreseeable future. But it seems to me like there are more opportunities coming up for women, and I think that's a good thing, and I think there should be more of it.
Yeah, I agree. I think it paints a more realistic picture of what this world is now anyway. I mean, there's not 90% guys walking around the street, so
yeah, absolutely. And unfortunately, I think a lot of female VO happens with feminine products and beauty products and stuff like that. And also if you listen to or watch Discovery ID, there's all of these like salacious, murderous wives and, I married a murderer, whatever like that. And to me, it's a little, like I said, it's a little salacious. It's a little sellouty. It's a little gossipy. And but it's not, I mean, like those things happen with men too, but I just sort of feel like, sometimes female VO gets a little misused that way. But
yeah, it sounds like that would be fodder for an upcoming MoShow episode. That topic would be ripe for picking.
Give me some ideas here. Yeah, actually, Andy has mentioned that. I'm going away because I'm writing a note down. But Andy keeps mentioning that because she's up for all of those, right? And she's perfect for it. And she nails those reads. But
it's an interesting opportunity that you have with the show for topics like this, where you can pick something that you or the group want to talk about and work it into the scripts.
Yeah, absolutely. We try to do that as much as possible. Because we're not a political podcast. We're not trying to make any statements, but we all definitely have very strong opinions about all that stuff. So we definitely try to, point things out. That's actually a really great step for us, to kind of point out the state of women in voiceover today, what's getting chosen.
Yeah, because the show, I mean, it's your show, right? You can decide what you want to put on and what topics you want to cover. But if there's an opportunity to just highlight something that just sticks in your craw, why not?
Absolutely, man. I mean, we've learned so much in the process of writing and listening to the stuff that we've produced already. And, there's been, we had an episode, it was, I think it's 113, the Stinky Dinky. Which we delayed by 4 or 5 episodes because we wrote, we wrote. It's basically like the part of the storyline is that my ISDN tech support guy, this guy named Charlie Majumdar, comes over from India, and he's like really into American culture, and we sort of like we had him come over, and he's like really into American culture and really into American women. And, he just wants to come over and get laid. And he thinks that really like that's all Americans care about. And so we tried to tackle that issue And we literally did like 3 or 4 entire rewrites of this one scene where, you know, me and Charlie go out to, originally it was a bar, and he's like walking around like slapping women and like just like America, I love it here, you know, like that kind of stuff. And we're just like, that's just offensive, and like nobody gets the message. And then I tried to rework it so that it was at like a chiller jazz bar, and that didn't work either. And then so finally we ended up in a place where I'm actually like really happy where it ended up, where he and I go out to a coffee shop, and he starts like ruthlessly hitting on women. And then at one point, like somebody's like, he gets slapped, and then he slaps her back. And then I make this comment, like, you can't do, like, what are you doing? You can't do that. You can't go around slapping people and hitting on them. And you're just, this is being really offensive. And he's like, and he's like, why? I thought this is the American way. And I'm like, name one person whose life hasn't been ruined by acting that way. And he's like, well, I can't name one, but I can name 12. O.J. Simpson, Michael Fassbender, Sean Connery. Like, it just rattles off this whole thing. Ray Rice, you know, and he's like, not only did these guys get away with it, but they're celebrated in this community. And I'm like, I guess you're right. You know what I mean? So we're trying not to hit the nail on the head necessarily. I mean, we might be, some people would think, but really, like, we're just, you know, with that kind of stuff, we're trying to point it out. And when it comes to those really sensitive issues, we're definitely trying to work on making it funny, you know, and pointing it out through humor. Like Jon Stewart is like a perfect example of that, you know. And so we're aspiring to be more that way. And I'm sure along the line, people are just not going to get it. They're going to take it out of context, or they're going to think that we didn't do it well. And, you know,
yeah,
sorry.
Can't please everyone.
Yeah, exactly.
But what's interesting about the approach is the people that you offend are going to be offended pretty quickly.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Exactly.
And that's a unique opportunity for you to find out who are the people that don't vibe with the show.
Well, you know, we actually welcome haters. Like we're actually kind of disappointed that we haven't gotten into any Twitter wars with anybody. You know what I mean? I think we just need to get more people to listen to the show, because we're waiting for the backlash, you know, and so far it hasn't come yet. But yeah, I mean, I think, as like, whether it's subtle or explicit, I think it's pretty clear what the point of view of the show is.
And when did you decide that the season format was something that you wanted to use for the podcast?
Pretty much when we first started, because I think we didn't really know what we were getting into yet. And, you know, most of us have worked in the film and television industry, where there's seasons, you know, and a production schedule, and sort of like a way to meter out the workflow. And so pretty much right from the start is when we decided we were going to do. First, we decided we were going to do 26 episodes, and then, you know, we got halfway through, and I was like, "Can we knock off 2?" Because this is brutal. And so yeah, like so that was pretty much when we decided we were going to do that season format. And that's another part that we've gotten a lot better at, is figuring out that workflow, you know, like Minnie just put us. So we're having our like kickoff meeting for season 2 at the beginning of next month. And Minnie just sent out this big long email about like now we actually feel like a production company. Like she is like a line producer, and she's like coordinating everything out. And it's actually really exciting now to be working under a structure. And I realized that, you know, at first it was like, we'll take it as it comes. It's fine. We'll just, you know, we'll figure it out. And now I'm like, let's figure it out now. You know, let's figure it out now, and let's like figure out how we're going to do this and when we're going to do this. And so hopefully it's going to go a lot smoother.
Because what you're doing is incredible. I think that people underestimate it when they hear the show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I don't think they realize, obviously after hearing this interview, they now do, but they might have taken for granted the level of professionalism that you're bringing
right
into this podcast. And like I alluded to earlier, it's not something that you see very often. And so I applaud you and the team for having that high level of professionalism.
Yeah.
And deciding that when you wanted to start a podcast, that you wanted to bring that professionalism that you have in your job to this, because I think you realized it was the only way that folks were going to take you seriously.
Yeah.
Because you could have just done like another comedy podcast that was just, toilet humor with shitty sound and something that sounded like it was just patched together in somebody's basement. But you and I both know what the reaction to that would have been.
Mm-hmm.
And it just wouldn't have been taken seriously.
Right.
And so kudos on having that foresight.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thanks, man. I mean, I love podcasts. I love listening to interviews and like there's people out there who are doing some really, really incredible shit, and just talking into a microphone with them or a couple other people or one other person or something like that. And it's great. That's just not what we do. You know what I mean? Like, and a part of this was, I want to work with my friends. I want to do something creative with people that I like and people that I think are funny and people that I want to work with. And it just sort of seemed like, well, what can we do? And this was it. And we realized we're in, I don't want to say like we're in a category by ourselves, but we've been looking out there, and we would love to hear if there's other shit out there. We would love, to find them and listen to it. But it's just something that we felt was not only something that we wanted to do, but something that was missing out there. And we didn't want to bring sand to the beach, you know what I mean? And this is something that we believed in, we thought would be fun. And here's my cat saying, "What's up?" It's my cat, Chitara, everyone. She's named after a Thundercat.
You actually look like a James Bond villain.
Yes. No, she hates that. Oh my God, she's calling the shit out of me. Okay. Now she's been traumatized. What the hell was I talking about? Oh yeah. So, but another thing is, and something that I want to mention, and something that I can hopefully turn on your listeners about is, back in like the 60s and 70s, there were actually a lot of audio comedy troupes. One of them was Fire Sign Theater. I don't know if you've ever heard of them, but they did it's a lot more psychedelic than what we do. But we try to emulate them at certain points. But it was basically like just wacky psychedelic 60s humor. And they do a lot of sketches, but they also do just a lot of really weird sound design. Lord Buckley is another great one who, and all of this stuff is on like YouTube and Amazon and everything like that. They all have albums. Lord Buckley was like a soloist. He had a jazz band behind him, and he would just riff. He would do things like he would take old Shakespearean monologues and change them into like this hipster thing. So he had, Mark Antony's speech in Julius Caesar began with, "Friends, Roman countrymen, lend me your ears. I came to bury Caesar, not to praise him." And so he changed. His version was hipsters, flipsters, and finger popping daddies. Knock me your lobes. I came to lay Caesar out, not to hip you to him. So, and he would do crazy shit where he would do like kind of like his own sound effects. He did this thing where he did this sketch where it was like he had this jazz band behind him, but he did this sort of like train sketch where it was like, Platform 5 going to Hipsville, Tripsville, Godsville, triple-a-bam, bibbidi-bing, woo, woo, all aboard, tickets, ma'am. And he would do this crazy, like, schizophrenic, like brain fucking stream of consciousness thing that would blow your mind. And And so, those, and there's all like Ken Burns, Word Jazz, and Joe Frank's another guy that did a lot of stuff like that. And, the people that know about those guys are crazy about them. Like, oh my God, because it's something that sort of feels like this, like a little bit of like an underground thing that not too many people know about. And, but it's great stuff. I mean, in this world where, if you're going for a walk, going jogging in your car, at the gym, whatever, there's all these opportunities you could just like pop in your earbuds and listen to something. And there's a lot of really amazing content out there that isn't just one guy giving a lecture about something, or one guy, or like one comedian talking to another. And don't get me wrong, I love all that stuff and I listen to that shit like crazy. But there's this big well of content that's out there in the world that a lot of people just don't know about. And why would they?
Well, there's so much being thrown at us nowadays, right?
Yeah.
And not all of it is premium content. And there's only so much time in the day to listen to all this stuff. And so how do you decide what you want to listen to? I mean, I love these, Dan Carlin, for example, Hardcore History. It's amazing. But I mean, what type of investment is that? It's so crazy that we have to pick and choose. It's a nice problem to have, but we've got to be super selective.
Yeah. It's like, sorry, Dan Carlin, I love history, but I don't have 3 hours.
So I'm wondering, with all of those cool shows that you outlined, like who turned you on to that?
My dad.
Really?
Yeah. He actually knew a lot of those guys. He was, I mean, just a little side note. He was a DJ on one of the first FM radio stations to play rock and roll in the '60s, and in San Francisco. It was a couple radio stations. One of them's KMPX, and the other one was KSAN. And they were considered underground radio at the time. And they were playing, Jimi Hendrix and Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young back before, they were getting any radio time at all. And so they were into the sort of like, they were all hipsters and into, like underground beat poet shit. And so these like spoken word poets were coming out at the time, and he just loved all of those guys. And so, when I was a kid, we would listen to that stuff, and I loved it, man. Even back then, even as a teenager, I was like, this is really cool,
So I'm wondering, like, what else was going on at that time?
Well, at that point, when it came to, listening, oh, you mean back to like when my dad was on, or when I was a kid?
Yeah, more so for you. Like, what were the influences for you on the radio?
Oh shit! I mean, the only thing that was on the radio was classic rock, smooth jazz, and like I was in the Pacific Northwest in the '90s, so I listened to a lot of grunge and Nirvana, Soundgarden, Alice in Chains, and all those guys. But when it came to just like audio stuff, we would listen to stand-up shit like Eddie Murphy. Adam Sandler. I don't know if They're All Gonna Laugh at You. I don't know if you remember, that was really fucking funny. That was a lot of sketch comedy stuff, but kind of lower production value than what we do. And that stuff was all really fun to be like, hey, have you heard this? And it's like, what? It's just a CD or a tape. I can just listen to that in my Walkman. And so it was fun back then. But it never really took off as like a popular kind of genre. I don't think it's ever really been a super popular genre.
But it's almost like you're giving us a rebirth of that.
Trying to, and trying to make it interesting for people.
Well, I think you're definitely succeeding, because it's just fascinating as I think about what I was going to learn when we started the interview, based on what I knew about you.
Yes.
That this... the in-depth, like the history, like the level of detail. It's almost like painting this whole entire picture of how you're taking something which somebody probably doesn't think that highly of.
Absolutely.
Like comedy, like lowbrow comedy for that matter.
Yes. Right.
And then applying this extreme level of professionalism that touches upon all these folks that you just mentioned.
Yeah.
And in a way pays homage to them.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And it's just fascinating as I think through it and think through all the detail and of what you're doing, how much more intricate it is that what you guys are doing.
Yeah, man. I just think that there's, we have so many options in this world. And it's like there's so many fucking options to entertain yourself with that it all really gets buried. And it seems to me like the things that are most popular are the things that you can, like an Instagram post or like a 5-second GIF where you get entertained for 5-10 seconds and then you move on to the next 5-second clip, whether it's visual or audio or whatever. And, my brother Dave is the one who turned me on to this guy, Joe Franks, who's this dude that I mentioned to you earlier. And he used to have a show on KCRW on Sunday mornings. And Dave would tell me, God, it was, I just loved every Sunday morning, I would just lay in bed and listen to Joe Franks. And, for the entire time that he was on the air and he's got like an experience attached to it. And I was talking to another friend of mine, an older guy who's like in his 60s, and he was telling me about Fire Sign Theater, which was one of these other guys in the 60s. And he's like, we used to smoke joints and just sit down and in a group and just listen to these and laugh our asses off. And it was just like the Cheech and Chong records when I was in high school. You know what I mean? Like we'd get together and just like, hey, which one do you have? Let's listen to it. And then we'd like talk about it the next day. And but that was back when there wasn't like 1,000 things you could do first, that were going to entertain you a lot faster and in a lot shorter way. So look, I mean, we're not trying to change the way that people listen to podcasts or get entertained, but, hopefully for the people that are looking for it, if they want like a 15-minute complete escape from reality to be entertained, then great, check this out,
Yeah, but it's not just any old 15 minutes. You're not doing it justice by saying that. I think it's something that you guys take a lot of pride in and have put a lot of effort into. So it's clear that you want to take some of that flavor and put that into your shows. And I'm just wondering, obviously those people are influenced, and it sounds like your brother was influencing you as well as your father.
Absolutely.
And so when you break down all those pieces, you really come away with a layered product that's really more than just a silly comedy show, and it's something that I'm coming to realize when I think about how seriously you guys take this, because I feel that it's something that the word should get out about the show.
I hope so.
More people should listen to it, and more people should give you, the 15 minutes and see if it's something that's for them.
Awesome, man. Yeah, thank you for that.
The other question is whether you were born with this voice. Seriously.
At 6 years old, I was singing baritone in a barbershop quartet and smoking cigars and drinking whiskey. I think it's funny for me personally. My dad had a really deep voice, and when mine changed around 15, 16 years old, I would answer the phone and people would think that I was my dad. And so I guess certainly a part of it is like the natural instrument that you're given. But no matter how beautifully golden and amazing your voice is, you still have to train it. And that's a common thing. Take note, aspiring VO people. A lot of people come up to me and they'll say, I've been thinking about getting into, like, this is a stock, like I could write this down on a fucking card and, just give it to people to hand out. Basically, it's like, I've been thinking about getting into voiceover. People tell me I have a great voice and I'm really good with accents and characters. So what should I do? And, at first I'd be kind of encouraging, like, oh, that sounds really good. Well, maybe take a class and do a demo. And now it's like, well, are you ready to dedicate yourself to an entirely new career and spend like 2 or 3 years training yourself and then like another 2 years just trying to get a fucking job? For me, it took a total of 5 years of like busting my ass every day to get to the point where I was like, where I didn't have to have any other job but voiceover. And that's the thing that people don't realize is that you can't, it basically be like, you just won, your high school track meet. And you're like, I'm ready for the Olympic team. Let's go. And because that's the thing is that, there's no minor leagues. As soon as you start doing VO, you're going up against John DiMaggio. You know what I mean? Like as soon as you get an agent and you're submitting shit, you're going up against the best in the business. So that's how good you have to be just to get a shot, and being able to read copy and have, good diction and elocution and get the idea of like what's being said across in a smooth way. That takes a long time for people to get to. And that's a baseline requirement. And so, when you start to get into the upper echelons of gigs that are out there, it's like the difference between getting a job and not getting a job is razor thin. And a lot of times you can't even tell, like you put like the guy that booked it next to the guy that almost booked it. And you can tell, yeah, that guy should have got it. But it's like, it's so subtle. You don't even know why. You can't even say like why. I don't know. It's just like that guy's just better. I don't know. That guy was just more on point. And a lot of times that doesn't even necessarily have to do with your talent. It can just come down to your interpretation of it, which is different from person to person. So it's just one of those things where like you have got to just like really dedicate yourself to it and treat it like a career, like you would any other career, like you would consider like a professional athlete's career or, a professional career in business or something like that.
Yeah, I think people underestimate the level of work and training that's involved for something like voiceovers. People maybe don't think about it. They think it comes naturally to people and they're just born with that voice.
Yeah.
And that they don't have to work hard to get to where you're at.
Yeah.
And so they don't realize what it takes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And probably looking for some sort of shortcut, which doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And then every once in a while, you're going to have someone who just got really, really lucky and who was at the right place at the right time and is now like at the top of the game. And those things probably do happen, but I imagine they really, really have to be far and few in between.
Mm-hmm. It is. Yeah, my old acting coach called that fairy dust. Every once in a while, somebody gets a little fairy dust sprinkled on them, and they'll hit something off the bat. But you know what? A lot of times, like the people that just like hit a big gig early on before they get a lot of training, they'll fizzle out pretty quickly afterwards. And unless they really make a point of like bringing their game up to something that's going to give them longevity in their career, and so, for me, it was a lot of classes. It was a lot. I mean, there was a year of my life where my entire life was get up, go to auditions, come home, read off of any piece of paper that had words on it that I could find for 4 hours straight, go to the gym and go to my restaurant job, and then.
And some crying.
There was some crying. There was some extensive masturbation that happened just to try to like break up the drudgery of it all. But during that time, I didn't fucking talk to anybody. You know what I mean? It was just like I had a very singular focus. And so, but then, a miracle came out of that. I got lucky, but I was ready when the opportunity.
Yeah, but I feel like I say this like it's a broken record, but luck is when opportunity meets preparation in my mind.
Absolutely. I believe in that 100%, man.
So now the obvious question I have for you is, where does your name come from?
So many stories that I've made up over the years. The short story is hippie sailor parents. The longer story is that my parents were doing a lot of sailing. They had an import-export business, and they would go over to Southeast Asia, and they had a junk. They had a Chinese junk that they converted, and they would sail around to different places buying different jewelry to sell back in the States. And my mom was pregnant with me that whole time, and so we were on the ocean constantly, and scuba diving and all this stuff. And so, when my mom was pregnant and I would move around or kick, she'd be like, "Oh, there's that motion." And then, they were on the ocean, and I don't know if this actually happened, but this is the story that I love to tell. My dad was basically like, "Motion." We'll call him Motion. Everyone thinks it's going to be cool. It's not going to be a pain in the ass for him in junior high or elementary school at all. He's going to fucking thank us.
I think the toughest part would have been those early formative years, but it's a unique name, so it's cool now, right?
It was a nightmare until I got to college, and then all of a sudden, everyone thought it was the coolest thing ever, and I was like, "Oh, okay, cool. I can work with this."
So, do you have any preference, Motion, or I know you go by Mo as well?
Yeah, either one. Mo's just easier to less explanation.
And the MoShow was
MoShow. There you go. Yo.
So there must be a lot of pressure to have your name on this show, because at the end of the day, no matter how many folks you have on board and how many team members you have participating in the sketches and the writing credits and all that sort of stuff, you've made the decision to put your stamp on this. And so that has to color some of what you feel, the pressure you feel for what you're going to get out of the door and what you're going to okay at the end of the day.
Yeah. No, I'm not going to lie, man. There's been some moments where I'm like, I can't believe I'm putting my stamp on this shit. Like, I cannot believe we're saying this shit in this show, and it's called the Mo Show, And so, I mean, talk about life lessons, you know what I mean? Like, however I feel about what other people think about it, it's still something that I think is awesome and hilarious and fun. And I have so much fun, and I have fun with my friends doing it. They love it. We all love it. We all have, I mean, there's literally been episodes where I've had to have the crew convince me not to cut it. And, and so I had to basically just get over myself, you know what I mean? And just be like, you know what? This is going to offend people. Some people are going to love it. Some people are going to hate it. Fuck it. It's me. It's who I am. And I want to be creatively expressed. So fuck it. Here you go, world.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, everyone who creates anything that comes from the heart wants it to be an expression of them.
Right.
And I think a lot of times too many people try to create something that they think other people want to hear.
Yeah.
And obviously that's going to be to the detriment of the quality of the show,
Yes.
because it's going to be watered down. It's going to sound like everything else, and it's not going to have your passion embedded in it. And what you've just stated is really the mantra that every podcaster should adhere to. Make something for what you want to hear, for what you like first.
Yeah.
And then as it grows out and as the show becomes more popular and maybe you get input from other folks, you can tailor as necessary, but start with your passion first.
Well, we've created such a great rapport within the group, and that was another one of our goals, like we wanted to create a comedy troupe. And we've all worked on stage. We've all worked on camera. This is something that we're creating in this environment because it's something that we have a lot of resources in. But would I love to do a live show? Oh my God, fuck yeah. That would be so fun.
Well, it's really exciting because the enthusiasm is obviously there. And I'm hoping that the show is going to pick up steam and get more popular.
We'll see, man. I hope so. I mean, really, like when we set out to do this, the number one goal was to just have fun. And, I got to say, we're having fun.
Well, Mr. Mocean Melvin, by hook or by crook, we finally pulled this interview off.
We did it, dude. We did it.
For those listeners that do not understand what a long time coming this was, I'm happy we finally got to talk. And I just have one last fun question for you. What's the most misunderstood thing about you?
The most misunderstood thing about me. Okay, so here, the truth of the matter is that I am a completely neurotic, insecure fuck. Like every single thing I do, I'm like, am I going to get away with it? Is this cool? Do people like me? Like, and you know, when I meet people and I tell them that, they're like, really? Because you seem like a cocky asshole. So I don't know. Trying to cover up something in there.
For all the evenings you spent crying at home.
Exactly. And we have been. It's not working.
It's easier to focus on the negative sometimes.
Exactly. It's more fun to make fun of insecurities than people's cockiness.
Well, I really appreciate you coming on. It's been an honor.
Thank you, Harry Duran. You're doing a wonderful service, by the way, for the podcast community. Getting us out there. I appreciate it.
Well, it's mutual because I appreciate the hard work that you and the team put into this show, and it's really a reflection of your commitment to putting out quality.
On behalf of the podcast community, we all appreciate your appreciation.
So, where's the best place for folks to track you down?
The MoShowPodcast.com is our website. You can get us on iTunes. We're on Podnose now, and Stitcher,
which is a thing.
It's apparently a thing. Look it up, Podnose. You'll find it. And there's a weird thing going on. If you're looking for us on iTunes, we're working with them on this. Search for just MoShow Podcast, not the MoShow Podcast. So it's a little thing if you're looking on iTunes.
Well, this was a blast, Mo. Thanks again for coming on.
Thank you, Harry.
So I hope you understand what Jason is trying to do with the show. And it's more than just trying to be controversial with the subject matter and cross lines and be raunchy just for the sake of being raunchy. The more I spoke to him during this conversation, the more I realized how, number one, talented this whole crew is. It's just amazing. If you get a chance to hear some of these episodes, it's just ridiculous how well produced, how well scripted, everything about the show is. They've got a couple more episodes this this season, and they're already getting started on season 2. And I think they really, really put a lot of work into what they put out, and it shows. And I learned a bit about the history of comedy on the radio and learned about folks like Lord Buckley and Word Jazz and Joe Franks. These are folks and people that I just didn't know anything about. And I was just really happy with the way the conversation was going. And I hope you guys give them a shot and listen with an open mind. And I'm just excited about the fact that it's a new show, and I'm trying to get it as much exposure as possible. So I really see nothing but good things ahead for Mo and the team. And like I said, I did get to hang out with him at LA Podfest, and he's really a solid guy. And hopefully I get to make a cameo on the show at some point, which I think will be a lot of fun. So you might have heard me mention at the top of the show that we are now part of the Podcastica Network. And I've been having some conversations with Jason Kabasi, who was on episode 56, and we really just hit it off. And he had the network started, and long story short, we were able to make Podcast Junkies part of that family, which I'm really happy about. I've been trying to look out for networks that would be a good fit and trying to see where I could find a home and people that are like-minded and podcasts and podcast hosts that I can relate to. So Jason has done a stellar job of putting a group of fan casts together to start. So there's Once Upon a Podcast, Evil Dead Cast, Under the Comic Covers, Game of Microphones, and the Sci-Fi Movie Podcast. So those are the first folks that are on there. And there's a lot of fan podcasts, but we've had discussions with Jason about growing that out as well. So we really are going to partner together to grow this network into something really wide-ranging in terms of the podcasts that we invite on. So we're going to be a little bit picky because we want to make sure there's a fit for folks that come on. But I can't tell you how excited I am to be partnering with Jason on this and excited about joining these folks. So if you get a chance, I've been listening to the Walking Dead cast. I'm really a fan of the show, and they do a stellar job. The episodes run for about an hour and a half. And so this latest episode is the one that kicks off season 6. So if you haven't seen season 6, it's an incredibly ambitious show. The writers and the director did a kick-ass job, and I won't reveal too much if you haven't seen it already. So go check out. So once you do check it out, then head on over to Walking Dead episode 195, First Time Again, and have Jason and Karen really walk you through what exactly has happened and break down the specifics of the podcast. And they do a fantastic job of that. So over the course of the next couple of episodes, I'll be letting you know about some of the other shows in detail that are on the network. But if you get a chance, go ahead and check them out. And the easiest place to do that is podcastica.com. So super excited about where that's headed. Don't forget, the support for this show can continue at podcastjunkies.com, and leave the ratings and reviews. I didn't see any last week, and that just might have been an oversight on your part. So now that you remember that that's something that you should be doing if you haven't done so already, head on over to podcastjunkies.com/iTunes and take care of that pronto. This week's listener retention hashtag is going to be Mo Knows. Because of our guest today, Mocean, otherwise known as Mo, we'll make the hashtag Mo Knows, MOKNOWS. Thanks again for listening all the way to the end, my super loyal podcast junkies. Take care, and we'll talk to you next week. Bye.